Hi. Um, this is man. I'm not. I am. I don't know what to do. I'm so tired. But there have been some good things that have happened. I feel like I've gotten some things off my chest, which is kind of. Just realizing that you sometimes life isn't what you thought it was going to be, or what you wanted it to be, but it's okay. Um, it's and this for me just personally. Um, Sometimes you get what you want, and sometimes what you want turns against you, and you don't get to keep it. You don't get to have it. And when you really want it to go away, it just sticks around, agitating you. And that's what I've been. I've been like extremely, I just can't take it. Like this extremely so tired of these antagonistic people. Um, and I wish with their, you know, patronizing attitude. So, um, it is, it's kind of weird. So I tried to simplify my life, um, because I thought at least life will be a little bit more manageable, because people were like coveting like everything. So I figure if you're that great of a nation, if you're that great of a person, then it shouldn't matter if I live in a van or whatever, or a truck. It shouldn't matter. As a matter of fact, I should be so far beneath you that I shouldn't even come into your notice. Basically, you should just be someone who is better, and that should be enough for you. Um, so that's not it. This is People are mean. People want to be mean, and they're intentionally being mean, and they don't care if the division or the great divide means that they're very wealthy and that I'm very poor. It's not a security thing. They just want to be mean, and they want to chauffeur you and make you crazy. So I probably, am in some extra person's video just telling them to go and keep their distance. Um, I find that some of these people are just extremely, extremely, hell bent on causing a lot of trouble and a lot of dismay. But at the same time, I feel as though that'll be over soon because it's too petty, and people get tired of it. It's extremely petty. So I'm hoping it goes away, and I'm hoping I never see these people again. Honestly, I just don't. I don't want to have anything to do with these people who are bothering me, and they still have themselves on pedestals as if someone wants to join them or be like them, and that's just not the way. I think these people hurt me so badly that I just don't. I have no desire at all, and in their punking, and every time I hear something is you're being punked by us. So this whole punking in the way it is, it's just it's unconscionable. But I see why. I can see now that people are, they're killing homeless people. They're killing people who are less fortunate for play, for game. They're killing old people. But and they're killing people of different religious persuasions. These things really never change. It's a part of the human condition. And I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I can understand why people would, go against me and have, a gripe. But the 24/7 of it And also the the trade-off on that is you would not yell at someone 24/7 unless you're paid. So I know where it's coming from. And you would not, you know, and you just wouldn't do that. And people signing up to volunteer to make me sleep deprived, well, it just so happens that right around the time when they were doing this, I used to do a little sleep deprivation in my prayer life. So I ended up having like 3 years where I'd just be in prayer and then go to work. Pray all night and then go to work because I felt as though I wanted to be connected, really, really connected. But it's not like that. You don't have to do all that stuff. Because just lay people in the church, you can do whatever you want, but it's not going to make you extra spiritual. It's not going to make you extra godly. You know, you have to determine what you want the outcome to be, and what the desires of your heart are. And if the desire of your heart is just to be, you know, a good person, well, you may have found a lot of opportunities to be a good person, but 24/7, even when I try to pace myself and try to maybe even say something supportive, it backfires, because the things that come to me are like, well, now we can get really over on her, and they become even more anti and more contrarian. And then they say, well, you're anti-us. And I'm like, there's no way I would come up against a group of your size. I would not come up against your organization. Not, you know, I'm not trying to defy death here. You know, I'm just trying to live, you know, peacefully with a beautiful scene, nice mountain view. That's it. It has nothing to do with being in shackles or being in chains. And so I get this, I get this constant feedback of, asking me for money. And it's petty. It is petty. And then I get asked to go to Israel and Jerusalem. And it's so petty. It's completely petty. So this has been going on for like 2 decades nearly. It just escalates. It escalated about 6-7 years ago to more nefarious conversations, more cussing, more things that were tangibles that would, happen more frequently. And then one day I woke up and I was just like, you need to stop. You're not on a pedestal anymore. Stay away from me. And I think this shocked people because they felt like I was supporting something that they didn't understand. I was surviving something that they were doing, not supporting something. So it becomes clear that they didn't understand that they had overstepped a boundary anyway, and they thought they still had the Kool and the Gang song playing. But there's, and to celebrate good life, come on. But just because you go on with your life doesn't mean that you're not affected by this negativity. And I'm not saying in life you won't have negativity. But this is 24/7. It's very exhausting. It's like I don't feel sleep deprivation. I do pray the Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie beside the still waters. And, he restored my soul. This is the maketh me part. I asked him to make me lie down and sleep, no matter what they're saying. And that's it. So I often get some sleep, but then I might find myself in pain and being attacked. Even like right now, I'm being attacked. And they are horrible. And they think it's the funniest thing. And they're very very, very, very evil. I don't want to be anywhere near them. So that's the reason why I went to the West Coast. But I didn't go all the way to the West Coast. I mean, I know it's pretty bad on the coast. So, to tell you the truth, people were saying that women were screaming in the shelters in Oregon, in the homeless shelters, because this type is the type of thing people would get them homeless, get them evicted, and then women started screaming in the shelters because of what people in this country were doing, and it was horrible. And what people in other countries that are supposed to be our allies are doing. So it's been such a nightmare, and they act like everywhere I go, they're like, oh, this is my neighborhood, this is my neighborhood. And it's just the same, it's the same messed up people. So you just stay in your neighborhood. Just stay. Because basically, and what you need to do is just, if I were you, I would just put up a police sticker. And I would put up a police sticker, and what I would do is I would stay away from the church. Stay away from the church and put up police stickers. Or just do what you want to do. Because Lord knows, you get enough fake smiles before you realize people are they're no good, So I don't like these things, and I'm glad. I don't think you need to stay away from every church, but there are people who are used to getting rid of other people in the church, and they don't do it in the way you do in Hebrews, where you're supposed to sit down with the person and talk to them. They just simply get rid of you. So it's pretty messed up, but I hope that for some reason, whatever happens, I've been going over the litany of Mary's words, and playing the rosary, and it's hard. Sometimes I don't want to do it, but then I just realize I just do it because I want to feel connected to the Holy Family. My family may have let me down, but the Holy Family I still feel is relevant. And as long as it comforts you, you should be all right. Remember that movie, We're No Angels? And, the one guy, Sean Penn and De Niro, they're really, it caught up in a cycle. And being in prison, and they have a prison escape they're forced into. And then they come to a small town just before the Canadian border, and they have to pretend to be priests that are visiting a monastery or nearby, and they're celebrating the feast day of Our Lady. And so there's all these people who have prayers and petitions at this time, because things are pretty depressed during that time. This is nearing, the time of the Depression, and there's still a residual effect going on in terms of money and all that good stuff. So, and the wardens at this time are terrible to the men. So they have this whole thing, this whole society, and prisons in themselves are their own business. I mean, they're their own, if you bring a prison to a section of a country, it brings so many jobs. People enjoy that more than they do having an Amazon be rejected by AOC. If you bring a prison to an area, oh, they love that. The economy gets boosted in like nobody's business. But as you know, it's unequal in terms of blacks going into prison, and the recidivism rates for blacks are very high to return to prison, because you get fed 3 meals a day. And if you do make it into your inner circle where it's just blacks and you, and you have somebody to that you can associate with, it makes it very difficult when you leave. You come to the outside world, and there's no one who really is relatable. Everyone's moved on, and You are still stuck, wondering, you had your routine down, and now you have to get back into a new routine. Change is hard, adaptability is hard, and you need a lot of resources when you come out. A lot of people, that's why there aren't enough, I don't think, prison resources when it comes to you getting out of prison sometimes. You're lucky to have a Kim Kardashian who came to at least free some of the people before, and as she's becoming a lawyer. I think really a lot of that is kind of the best kind of representation of humanity. But she started off being kind of a very sex symbol, and that's the way Kanye wanted her. And then when he changed and he was trying to be a Christian, she didn't know what her role was anymore. He had made her something of this sex symbol, and now he wanted her to eschew back as he took his role. And can you imagine anyone at this time trying to make Kim Kardashian do anything? So she's got this power. They've been to the White House as a power couple, at least under Trump, during that time, and they've tried to free several different black people, and they together as a power couple. But he told her, open your legs, pose like this. I want them to see what I see. I want them to desire what I desire. And he tells her what to dress like. He sets the stage for this, even to the point where now, she's complaining because he's still saying, I would have never worn that when she goes to different places. He's still kind of got his pulse on what she should be wearing in order to put out the image of sexuality and the bravado of what it means to be a holistic profile of the Americana of sexism, and what that means for the career-minded person. It can mean a lot of different things, because some people get fired for being in that type of situation with those types of pictures. But for her, it is her career to walk out, to step out, to be known. And it's just, she has kind of veered that into being a lawyer, but she still has a job to do, which is her modeling work and her store brand, with, whether that's family branded or not. I'm not very familiar, but I know there's lots of knockoffs, okay? So, of their family store brand that they had, and it's grown into a very lucrative business for them, of course. Now, and her ex-husband has gone through a lot. But that's like show busy, you know what I mean? But for them to do some good in the world, they boasted a lot of church, a lot of youth, and made Christianity fun. But see, at the end, when you look at Corinthians, when you look at the early churches, and even Jesus, he does warn about these things. He shies away from it in a very important way, because he says at some point in time people are getting fed, and he means food. He doesn't mean the word of God. And so people start to come just because they're getting fed, not because they actually want to be spiritual. And so you have and people come for the music, they don't come for the God. And people come for the showmanship, they don't come for the God. And they come for, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't mind showmanship in church. I'm not opposed to it at all. I don't mind it at all. It's not, there should be things that draw you in, and it's a comfort. I mean, I've been to plenty of churches where the standards for the pastors had to be super cute, super attractive, and if you weren't drooling and had a little bit of moisture, that was not the church. that you should have attended. And people don't realize, they're selling a brand of God, and that's not the point. The point is, hopefully, even if you meant it for a curse, that it becomes a blessing to the people who experience it. So they get to experience a little bit of excitement, especially youth of today. If you can get them excited about anything, that's par for the course. Nobody can really take that blessing away. But if you tend to step away from everything controversial and don't have the important conversations, you can't just say things are off the table. The fact of the matter is, Jews, you look around, even Chappelle said, you notice they're in Hollywood, all over the place. And this has become, the thing where he said, you cannot say the two words, the Jews. But this isn't really, I don't think, speculative about the Jews. I think people are just done with stereotypes, and they're done with the fact that people don't want to necessarily be Jewish. They don't want to necessarily be Christian. They want to have an identity that allows them to have acceptance where they are, just right where they are. And that means like in school, when you're in school, and all the pressures that go with that. Looking cute, wearing the right outfit, not overdoing it on the makeup. Whatever it is for that particular season of your life, people just don't want to, they want acceptance. It's the branding of it, because cool doesn't mean cool to everybody, right? There are plenty of people who are like in perpetual bliss clubs of, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do that, but we also don't tell you what the rules are. So there's a subtlety to belonging and a subtlety to acceptance. So nobody's going to tell you, but they are going to treat you badly until you get to the level, right? And that's what acceptance is sometimes about. It's branding you as unacceptable no matter what you do, and you can't really correct it, but it becomes a life where you may not feel accepted anywhere you go thanks to the branding. So or you could just act like branding doesn't matter, for which some people do. I'll just disenfranchise myself, and this, I'm going to wear a beanie, a black beanie in the middle of summer, no matter where I am. So, you're just doing your own thing, and that's it. So when you turn around, and it's very uncomfortable, believe me, when you try to turn something around, people feel like you're going to try to come against them in some way and change the status quo. If you're not changing the status quo, it may actually not be such a bad idea if you just don't, say anything. Because you want to me, I would rather you try to at least to try to say, hey, I'm pro you, but I'm also pro me. And first I'm pro God, then I'm pro me, and then I'm pro you. So let's just get that right, because it's not that I'm anti you. You just don't make the top echelon, and it doesn't matter who you are or what you call yourself. There's a cutoff point for which I feel like, even in humanity terms, I'm not going to look up the news in a country where I don't have some type of connection. So we get news forced at us, and sometimes the Americana even goes, what am I doing? Like, why did this make the news reel? And so it becomes the news that it's not news. We're looking at not news because there's nothing else. There's no story to chase. There's nothing going on. It's just what people want to hear about at any particular time and place and time. And so, and you're trapped. You're trapped in that false sense of news until you get away from it. I used to go to the Nextdoor app for neighbors, and It's all about neighbors not being good neighbors. No, it's not. There's some pretty funny neighborly jokes, pretty funny heavenly jokes too. And there's actually some people with a really decent sense of humor on there. Whether they be elitist or not, they've got a good sense of humor. So it's well worth it to like fish through and thumb through, at least until you come to the section where they have like a joke or something. And then in between, it's like it is real life, because there are crimes that happen. There are warnings that say the police are over in this section, just be careful. And that says, I love you. That does say, I love you. You know, it's not always the words I love you that say I love you. Sometimes it's somebody reaching out and just being like, you be careful out there. It's going to snow this afternoon. Or take your umbrella, you know, and make sure you wear your raincoat tomorrow. And those cute new rain boots I saw you had on, like when it last rained. And that is a neighbor. That's an I love you. That's an I care. Because I think that's what it's supposed to mean. Whereas, you know, if you're always in a meeting, nobody cares, nobody says anything. If you're out by yourself, you don't care, you don't say anything, you know, you might not be in the I love, you know, moment at that time. And you have to just try to, you know, piece it together for yourself, right? So here I am loving on my hair. I'm trying to put on a little bit of makeup, unbeknownst to you, right? You didn't know. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, you do self-love. You try to emulate neighborly things. For me, ye is like, I'm kind of in his territory, so I'm talking about it. But really, you know, I often want to, I spend a lot of time singing and humming different melodies, and I really appreciate that when people take the time, especially musicians, to make you feel welcomed and invited into the church. A lot of times that music speaks to you, and we have even have a song, you know, a psalmist among us, whether it's a song of Solomon or a song of David, or it's a song of Ezra. Ezra did some of the writings back then. There were a couple of different writers of the Psalms. So those are, cue the musician to do this, and they tell you some of the instruments that were playing at the time. And then you hear this music, you know, either pleading with God or thanking God or asking God not to, you know, send fire and brimstone, you know, asking him to be your strong tower. And so you get kind of a plethora of a lifetime of what it's like to actually call out to God and cry out to God in this way that, you know, you get the full story. And David's a shepherd to king. His story, you know, and he had many brothers. As a matter of fact, he kind of had a Uguay moment, like with Poe and the panda bear, where, you know, Uguay was like, he's the next one. He's the dragon warrior. And everybody was like, wait, did you mean... And Tigress was like, wait, did you mean me? And of course, Poe didn't believe it either. But, you know, he finds us in our weakness, and we succeed in our weakness. So I kind of like, I turned myself off today, and I was like, you know, this is where he's going to find you. And until your weakness, when your weakness comes out, you can use it for people or against people. And when your weakness comes out, the people you use it against can turn it for themselves, or they can turn it against themselves. So you can point the weapon, and then it says, no weapon shall prosper against me. And you can turn the curse into a blessing. Hopefully, if you take it the right way, right? And so the thing you have to do is say to yourself, when you're in leadership, you have to be very practical and pragmatic about being the first one to reach out, being the first one to be there. But you've got like a whole congregation, right? So how do you ask them to manage all of that and then manage someone who clearly is self-managing, doing their own thing? So you have to not ask me that question. You have to answer the question for yourself. What does it mean to be in this time of being a good neighbor? And some people would rather say, well, let him suffer through it. If there's a lesson to be handed to him, maybe he'll suffer through it, or maybe he won't. And maybe he won't see any suffering, because we just assume that he's going to suffer. We just assume that we know what makes him suffer. If losing $1.5 billion doesn't make him suffer, well, then he's okay. It may be nothing to him in the long scheme of things. It depends. You don't realize your suffer point is just another chronological line in the continuum of life. And it doesn't last forever. He's not going to go around saying forever Jews are in control of Hollywood. Oh, this is new to me, and I'm no different from a Jew because I belong to the tribe of Judah. You look at any map from 1948 and back, after 1950, you don't see Judah in Africa. So it was supposed to be in southern Africa, kind of like towards the middle, like, in South Africa. So that group was jettisoned out. And it was supposed to be the remnant of Israelites, and they were supposed to be black. They called it Negro land. And within that land, there were white people in the Cape. And the black people who were there, they weren't Africans. They were Jews. So they kicked them out. And they redid the map around about that time. And if you can see it from back there, they were slowly pushing out those people to be sent westward and then bound for the Americas, to be sent to America and different places around the world to be slaves. So that was it got remapped, and then that's what happened. So it became kind of this region of, instead of having like the split, you're gonna have to forgive me, but it would be like in the center, there's supposed to be like a big, I want to say it's, I don't even want to say anymore. I have to look it up, but I want to say, I don't want to mess up, but I think just Central Africa and then to the Cape or the Horn of Africa. This is that area. It was elongated, and it just seemed to have a middle portion specifically dedicated, and then that part gets tossed out and disappears completely. So you don't see it in any of the maps from 1750 on. And so what I would do is make sure that it's valid and not just some theory. It's not just some false theory or false hypothesis that's going on. But I think when you come into the knowledge that you might be Jewish or you might be a part of the chosen, also you have to come into the part where you also become a part of the story of where there were failures, there were covenants broken with God. So when I talk about them, I'm seeing it from a very different point of view. Yeah, chosen, but also exampled. Very exampled based life of like disobedience, love, fortune, disobedience, great loss, slavery, pits of despair, complaining, disunity, broken up, tribes broken up. And so we have, and then coming back together because people are vying for the community to come back together under one nation. And so as a way to to say we want this now. We're ready for it now, and that this is a good round table circular discussion that deserves some chatty chat, not just to be ignored, because you're reading the Bible if you're a Christian, and some places go dark. And I'm like, OMG, it is the chapters, the history, it goes dark. But if you read about any church might have a dark history. And it might not have to do anything with the church members not being loved by God. It's very conscienceable that you have to be very conscientious, because even the book of Job clearly points this out. But the world is restless. And so they feel like if anything really big and bad happens to you, you're cursed, you're an abomination, there's despair, you've done something to hurt God's feelings, if you will. And sometimes you have to be very careful. The book of Job is about Job suffering. God allows Satan in. His family's killed. His friends are mocking him while dogs are licking his sores. He has fallen into the pit of despair. And at the end, God says, your 3 friends, you need to tell him you're sorry. I'm a sovereign God. I get to do, say, do what I say, do, and mean. And a lot of this revolves around the kingship, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, this sovereignty, the sovereign part of the godly kingdom, which is mirrored in also men. And if you have a king, I mean, just think Anne Boleyn, okay? She wanted to get away with some things. And to tell you the truth, it just wasn't happening. And then next thing you know, not so good, right? Not good. This is not good, you know. And so we have this, the ramifications. You don't talk to a king. A king talks to you. He addresses you. You briefly answer his question with hopefully not something too controversial. You have to be asked. You have to ask for an audience with kings. This is a very different thing. We have to invoke the spirit of holiness. This is a very special relationship that a King of Kings and a Lord of Lords. That's why I'm afraid of God. Okay, I may not be afraid of you, but I'm afraid of God. Because not only when Saul was killing and about to kill even more Christians, yet Jesus was just like, Saul, why you brought so cool to me? I got a deal you can't refuse. And next thing you know, Saul is blind. He can't walk. He's on his side. Somebody has to go pick his body up off the road. I'm like, what? What kind of conversation did Jesus have with him? But this is just, I'm trying to make you see that when you say King of Kings and Lord of Lords, this is after he has ascended. So, or this is after he has ascended and he is he comes back. This is after the resurrection. So he hasn't ascended yet. He is still walking among us as if he has ascended the throne and he has come back down to then do some things. So his ascension work and the resurrection, they're like these two. That's why they're mentioned separately, okay? Because he's resurrected, he's come down, and he's got this power from on high, and the things he couldn't do before, he has been given the sovereignty title, and the things he couldn't do, man, he could do the man, but he had a different purpose. Now he's got the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings title. And there's no other name above that name. So he says you'll do greater things than I because of this positioning. He is going to apportion a piece of the Holy Spirit, and it's irrevocable. It's not something you can take back. Once he gives it to you, this is he gives you this gift. This is what it is. So it's up to you. You know, there's a little bit of something mysterious about this, but this was the the apportionment of the Holy Spirit given to different people. And whether or not you choose to say, I want that gift, but you weren't meant to carry it. It's not yours to carry. It's not your apportionment. Be very careful when you say, I want your gift, transfer that gift to me. You may have to live my life. And in that particular case, you ain't going to like it. That gift is not going to be a gift. It might be a curse. So you want the gift, you'd have to have the life. He's the way, the truth, and the life. So if you don't have my life, you don't want my gifts. If I don't have your life and I need your life, I may not want your gifts. I may not want your apportionment. So it's the same with Saul. He's like, hey, you're going to have a new name. Your name is Paul. Not too far off. You know what I'm saying? And they had appointed a 12th apostle they voted on it, but he wasn't appointed by God. And so Paul is not the 13th apostle, he's the 12th. He was appointed by Christ. So that road meeting, I know I make a little jokey, but he is actually the 12th apostle. So that's how just in counting terms, okay? I may be wrong, I may be off, but the discipleships continued, and the disciples run under the apostles, and which would have been considered at that time. I guess these would have been popes or the diocesan bishops under Christ, who is the head of the church. And then we all would have been like lay people, Gentiles, Jews, blah, 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 right? So my point is, Kanye did something. He opened up the gospel to young people. Don't turn away just because it becomes unpopular for that person, or they might say something or do something. I have sins too. I'm full of frailty. I don't like what's happening to me, but I don't get I don't get a free pass either. And I have to try to monitor myself a little bit better. But if I could do anything, I remember I wanted to go to the hospitals, hand out a bingo game board before COVID. Because I have had pneumonia umpteen times just by being a caretaker and just by not having a good amount of, whatever, the medications that come out that are supposed to help you. So once I had I feel like COVID has saved me from at least the lesser form of pneumonia. If that's, or staved it off just a bit. So I haven't had pneumonia, I can't knock on wood, but knock on wood, my dog is asleep. So, and if I knock on wood, he'll think the door is being, he'll wake up and bark. So, but that's the thing. So I'm hoping that, I get to do something remotely, where I was trying to do something through Airbnb and play poker. I mean, not poker. I'm sorry. Play what's it called? I got bingo remotely. A lot of stars started to do that with people, invite themselves in, and it was really cool. But I think playing lots of games you can play, and just trying to lend a sympathetic ear. I've been through a lot of bullying because of my weight. I've gotten a smidge bit healthier, but it's still one of those things where, you just have to try to be your best, have your confidence, and do the best you can, no matter what. Either you're going to go out or you're going to do what you want to do, or you're not. You're going to sit at home. And there's plenty of people who it takes them decades and decades to die from just sitting at home. So don't worry about it. You can still have longevity. You just ain't going to feel very good. So, I'll show you a little bit. We walk around here. The dog runs and plays. I have been extremely cold. So it's very difficult for me. But we're going to go for an afternoon walk before because it's supposed to snow all day long. It's snowing now. So that's what you see in that back window. It's not just a mountain, it's actually snow too. So and that's what, I don't know if I can get it back, but that's us. And there I am. Okay, so not too much snow on the ground, but it was all white before. It's just the temperature has risen, and cars have come by, and vehicles have come by. So that's what we have. But I do wish they would stop saying don't have the conversation about Jews. Now everybody is anti-Jew, but to not have the conversation means that people just don't address anything, and so you're left with a taboo in your society, which just means that you might incur the same people who say, yeah, I don't want to deal with this anymore, and if this is what they give me in Hollywood, I don't want it, or they might be subjecting themselves to, and I can't change the channel on this thing and I'm going to blame somebody. So it could cause a lot of instability. If you address it, there are lots of people who appreciate good television, and I think we do have good television on most of the time. The shows I like, I'm astounded at how wonderful some of the shows are comparative to Godzilla, Ultraman, stuff that was out when I was a kid watching a small little tube. This is not to forget Malmotha and the two singing girls. Oh, and the baby Godzilla. Little bit Gumby, little bit green. Someone like the father, but not. Okay. But very sentimental once the child appears, So I'm loving it. And lots of good themes. The Howdy Doody Show. These are my things, along with Doctor Who and trying to stay up and things. But we had very, very interesting shows that came out. I've appreciated the scope and breadth of life, especially in my sci-fi world with Star Wars, and seeing the stories unfold within the storyline about the different characters and how they either come into power or how they fall away or what their backstory. This has been really something that's it's something that makes me feel like I've been a part of this since it came out in 1977. I've been watching it since 1979 because there was a line around the block. It was 97 degrees and we had a 3-hour wait to go see Star Wars with my family. And I remember taking turns, leaning on my dad and leaning on my mom, and as this little girl, just not knowing what to expect. And when I saw it, I was just like, love, the greatest feeling in the world And not everybody got it. Like half my family was like, mm-hmm, all right. And then my dad and I were just like, click, 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 click. We just so enjoyed sci-fi from that moment on. That was how I connected, aside from nature, with my dad. And it was wonderful. So I just wanted to, without giving away, too much information, you know, just kind of say that you get those moments when things click, and it's you genuinely clicking with it. So it doesn't belong to my dad. It belongs to me. And now that I can see these other things, it makes me very happy. Whenever I get down, I look forward to the next iteration. I look forward to what's going to happen, what can become of life, and what I have to look forward to. Life is not perfect. It was never meant to be perfect. I mean, you can remember, I don't know if it's Charlotte Bronte or Emily Bronte or whatever. One of the Brontes is, I don't know if they did, whatever, Jane Eyre or whatever. And I remember, when the little girl, just before she died, she said, "Oh, Jane, to think that you won't suffer in life." Yeah, that's just foolishness. She said, "You're going to suffer." You can't avoid it. She said, "But you're going to experience suffering and joy." She said, "How can you be this age and not know that?" And so it's kind of like I'm both guilty of, like, I hear it and I hear it from, this child who's, obviously is going to die, in this particular, very young, and yet she has a saintliness about her because she's delivering really the center of the message of life, which is, no matter who you are, you lose family, you lose friends, you can negotiate every deal in the world, but the people who are truly yours, truly at your side, they'll be the ones that either they stay on the team, or if they're fencing it, you may not want them to fence it anymore and be on the team, but they generally try to stay on the same team, acquiesce to be a partner in the ups and downs, and so that's a generousness that you don't always get, even from the church. And I really believe that at this particular point, that the church should stand by Kanye, to expect everybody to come into the church just because they know how to sing a song or read a scripture, or that they've given their life to Christ, to be a discipleship level. Like, that's what I mean. Like the 2 by 2 that went out. There were 72 sent out that were to go out from Jerusalem 2 by 2. When you get to a town and they don't like you, it just said, go to the edge of that city or that town, and then kick the dust off your shoes and keep moving forward. So, and with that in mind, because I know these people live over here, and I know they didn't come all this way. And even if they did, they just, maybe they recruited a couple of people. But I feel as though you can basically be delivered and not know you're in your own promised land. So be careful how many places you run, and if you can find at least one smiley face or something, and there's some good there, you might not stay forever, but you can have some rest without kicking the dust off your heels just yet. And you can still look for that heavenly place where it's supposed to be light and love and abounding joy. Or you can make yourself back home and pick up the pieces of your life, whatever you decide to do. It depends. I don't hate the place. I don't hate the people. I just don't want to be hurt. There's a difference. These are people I loved. I don't want to be hurt by them. And if I have to take a pill in order to make adjustments to be near you because I don't feel accepted by you or loved by you, I'm already too far gone into my own, season of escaping. So either I find something I love and then I can stick with it, or I move on anyway. It doesn't matter. Until you settle into whatever you settle into, you'll never know. And not everyone is a bad person, but I can hear people in their vans, and I can hear me in their van. I could hear them in these things that are going on. Like, even my dog will bark because he's like, they get so loud and they just don't care. So I don't have I'm not having a psychotic break, and I'm not bipolar. They're proving people aren't bipolar. They're proving there's a group of people who are actually just trying to play like some type of a Hunger game with people, where you're not even hearing voices or having hallucinogens. They have killed people though, because they have invoked the right to use this technology, and they have killed people. That's a problem. When you have that much power, that much authority, and you decide to disenfranchise a group of people, you make it hard. You make it extremely hard for you to be taboo. Now people want to know you're not taboo. You need to be spoken to. You need to be talking about this, because there's something else going on where people just follow you, and then you get top echelon and other people don't. You are not just alone in this, and the technology you're using is not new. So for people to actually commandeer technology and then start to use it in a way that appears as though they are bipolar, and then you tell them something, and I've been through the same experiences as my sister and whatever, her 8 girlfriends. I am not above them. I am below them. And these things and one-offs in my childhood, they're not with me to the level. I've dealt with them in talk therapy. This is not something I have to bring to you. This is not something I have to feel bad about. So the layering on top of the layering, it simply means that people who write books and write in their PhD and dissertations in psychology today and get published, those American psychology journals aren't being read by the people who use the technology. And so based on that, they just have to one-off you and try to do isolationism to punk you out of your mind and your space. And you don't have to, like I said, it doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't. This is not an escape route. It is not you avoiding criminal activity. The statutes of limitations are gone for any of this stuff. You have to look at your state laws. So they're punking a group of people to make sure you get punked by a group of people and bullied, and there is no law on the books for anything that's happened. You cannot turn around and criminalize someone going on 60 for a crime that was committed. You feel like it was a crime. It's not a crime. People were trying to make the girls in my neighborhood and groom them for sex. Some people took and partaked, and all of this was watched by everyone else. So they feel like embarrassed. So they want to get back at you. But really, all you did was deal with the consequences, and then your eyes were open. You're not awake or awoke. You just realized there was a whole constituency group that was trying to deal you a bad hand. And for you to be able to articulate and have talk therapy, there's nothing above or nothing below. The statutes of limitations have already been over. So they're just trying to unbalance you by trying to get you to accept the guilt. The thing is, the program is relatable only in one regard, and that's that they use the same trickery on each person. And each one of these people that has committed suicide, that is in by order of whoever, but the vice president gets the report from the AOUSC courts. So the Administrative Office of the United States court system basically blacklists targets that they feel are in cahoots, and then they do a slow death roll. They isolate you, they push you out of the church. People start to be friendless, try to not be your friend, and it's a horrible thing because it comes at you from all sides. It's work, personal, home, and they piece together, they surveillance you, so they piece together video footage to make it seem like you are doing these things now, not some exploration thing early in your childhood where you didn't know taboos of society. They are really trying to knock it up a notch to make it seem like it was something you did like yesterday. There's no crime here. There's no syndicate forming. This is not what you think it is. But how can you convince it when someone has been working a long time to go against you? And you don't know how long. I put it at 2 or 3 decades. This may have been a lifetime of surveillance. And there's nothing you can do about that except move on with your life, no matter what they say and no matter what they do. But the fact of the matter is the weapons that they use the same organized weapon. And they say the same story. And then these people just kill themselves. Or they go off and they become active shooters. So, and usually they're Christians that were a part of the last segment of the tribe of Judah. That's what just about every one of these people is discovering. They come into the church, but there's a level of brokenness within us. We're not perfect. We're still wretches. We're not the best with organized, And they find you to be very spiritual. They'll always say something like, you're very spiritual. Don't buy that. Don't buy that. God is spirit and truth, okay? We live in spirit and truth. And you have to have the truth and knowledge about yourself. You can have brave moments, brave days, lucid moments, But for the most part, they do this thing to you. You're going to have a level of, I don't like you. I don't want to be you. This is irrational. And you wouldn't do this to anyone. You wouldn't do it 24 hours unless you were effectively trying to kill the person or get them to kill themselves. Have they said it outright? Why don't you just kill yourself? Why don't you just get out of my neighborhood? Yes. Einstein Elementary, right by my old house, kids were yelling with SWAT, cops in full gear. And they were like, you're a Muslim. You're a Muslim. I say the litany of Mary. I'm not a Muslim. I wouldn't say it's the best religion on earth. I would just say it's a religion that has seen me through most of my life. And this God that belongs to the religion is in the religion and outside of the religion. He exists beyond space, matter, and time. And the scope of my life has been geared to try to connect with him in some way. And this may have put me on someone's radar, or it may have been something else, but it doesn't matter. Whatever somebody is doing, the bullying and the cyberbullying that you experience, you can contact me anytime and let me know if you want to talk or chat or just play, a game of bingo. It's inconsequential, but you can't commit crimes. So there are still crimes that you can't commit. Now, talking back to somebody, as long as you keep a couple of clean words in there, there's nothing they can do because you have the constitutional right to free speech. But keep in mind, not everybody wants to hear your free speech words of stop and leave me alone. But there are plenty of people who know what's going on because before I even left this previous town I was with, the people were mad at me and I didn't know who they were. So I was like, why? I was asking them with my phone, why are you mad? What happened? And honestly, they're just actors. No one's ever going to explain it to you, and they're never going to tell you. They're never. They will stay with the same script. That's it. And remain indifferent to you. There's nothing you can do. Because even if your name was some other name and it's still on blacklist, they have the same ammo. And it's the same ammo that they use when people have not even committed a crime. I'm going to explain something to you right now. If you're a man, stop talking to young girls, okay? Even if they, I am young, I am 13. Get off the goddamn phone. You're being surveillanced. You're being punked to trace and trap, okay? Don't do it, okay? So what you need to do, if they pull you over and they find that they'll come in, they'll say, you've been talking to a cop, not a 13-year-old, and we're going to charge you. We want you to go home, tell your wife, and come back and get ready for charges to be filed. They haven't charged you because they can't. It's trap. It's trace and trap. So if you were talking to a cop, you weren't talking to a 13-year-old. What happens is men go back into their car knowing that they're not going to have a life or a job, and they're going to lose their children, and they blow a hole in their head in their car. This is despicable. This is insidious. So what I don't want you to do is talk to an actual 13-year-old who's underage, but I also don't want you to lose your life. So make it a priority that you are either going to have an uncontested divorce for $150, whatever it costs in your state, and then you can pursue another woman who you think is above age but younger. Leave your wife and leave your kid if they mean nothing to you. Other than that, stop having affairs. Get some counseling and try to work on your marriage. Make it a priority. Stop talking to people extra affair, especially because if you think it's going to cost you a bullet to your head, if you start to talk to somebody and you don't know who it is on the other end, and you're just texting them and they're sending you all kinds of pics, please, for the love of goodness and sake, okay, if they trap and trace you and you do the bullet to the head, or you come in there and they're like, they've now got a confession that you signed. Don't sign anything. They're okay, and cops are not the court. They do not do plea deals. They cannot get you a better deal. You have to be sentenced. You have to be charged. And then you have to have a deal on the table to do a plea deal. And this happens in the courts, not at the police station. Police are not the judicial. They're the judicial system. They're not the they're not making the laws. Okay, the legislative makes the laws. The judicial courts helps people interpret the law so that the executive branch can enforce the law. So and they run the court. So when the court gives this list of people, you will see how many people are on the list, and they will show you how many people are actually going to commit suicide. How many people have been through the program of isolationism and they have killed themselves. It's called a slow kill. You get this report, it goes right to the vice president. This is a public PDF that's sent out from the AOUS courts to the vice president every year. And so, at least. So you can look it up, the PDF, and you can see the roll call number and how many people that they're tracing and trapping. So at one point in time, people said, don't say words like, don't say these 3 words, right? Maybe there aren't the words you should say. And so, and don't get involved with an acquiesce to get involved with a group just because you want a nice dinner. Keep your opportunities slim. Oh my God. And then the other thing, guilt upon guilt upon guilt. If you didn't do anything, please don't let people shame you into saying things. Just go on with your life. Don't over empathize or anything. It's the worst. Christians are the worst. We're like super polite. And then when we don't need to be, we're just like, ah. But when we're like super polite, we're the worst. We get into so much trouble. Because I used to have a boss that used to tell me before he became my boss, and then he wasn't my boss anymore. And he used to always say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I don't know if the original proprietor of that is Benjamin Franklin or not, or someone before that. But he couldn't wait to quote that to me. And I could not wait to try to get better with the road. And learn to drive on the road, right? So just improve my driving, just improve my jobbing, God, just, and make it a little bit better. Yeah. So you just try to do better. Just try to do better. No matter if somebody's punking you or bullying you or whatever. And if you can't connect to the people there, go someplace else. Try to connect to something else, It takes everything, it seems. But I always tell people, if you're feeling upset, blink. Just blink. Blink, blink, blink. Chew gum. Snap your fingers. Put on your favorite songs. Keep your earplugs in. Whatever you need to do, because it has been horrible. And you will never figure out where it's coming from, what they're doing. You just know that something is happening and it's not right and it's not fair. So since nobody's ever going to explain it to you, I'm trying to give you the best explanation. They're going to say something happened in your childhood. They're going to say something bad happened. And I want you to know, remember and trace where you can. And if nothing happened, go on with your life. Don't try to remember everything and sleepwalk yourself to death. Don't try to over praise and worship till you're exhausted and then you don't have any power to fight and putting good things to yourself. I'm telling you, there have been times when I've just been like, and that's all it took. And believe it or not, it doesn't change them, it changes you. They'll keep talking 24/7. They'll keep shaming you. But what you have to do is just change you a little bit, So that's all that is. And it's not a big change. So if you can remember it, just do it. And it doesn't have to involve pain. It just involves it involves strategy just a little bit. Sometimes I just say, oh, I'm going to McDonald's. I'm going to McDonald's. And then I go and I get dressed. And the only thing I do is I just go cook breakfast or something. Because they're all kind of will be on the alert. And one time I was like, I'm going to go to Chicago. I got on my phone. I started making reservations. And yes, they started talking to me like, we're all at the... So you have to be very careful, because I was just thinking, I just want to go. And I didn't realize the manifestation of that. See, I wasn't punking them. I just kept thinking about it. So inadvertently, just think about something. And just think about anything else, And you probably will be okay. Now, if, and I'm not saying everybody's innocent of the 60,000 either, but I'm not a big proponent of this plan. And it's because it creates active shooters. So you target the target that targets the target. And that's what's happening with ye. Now the church is going to target the target that targets the target for the target. And Adidas did that too. And people are like, well, when he said white people matter, and then do you see how that works out? Now it's that you can't negate it, and now you're racist, right? For saying that, right? So, oh my goodness. So then it targets the target that targets the target that targets the target. So then we just have civil war, right? Okay? And that's not what we want. So I think deal and handle your own business the way you see fit. The way I see it, you want to talk to me, fine. Talk to me about some things. I'm going to see it that the way that I have normally seen it, which is you can talk to a therapist, you can talk to me, you can, but if you have this type of issue, a lot of people just say keep praying, keep vigilante on your prayer life, your prayer circle. I would recommend that I would recommend that it's so sketchy of what each person should do that I couldn't recommend anything. I would just say, if you have the desire to chit chat with me, I can't make myself available. You would have to go through proper channels to chat with a professional. And if you want to talk, but just talk and just be accepted, I don't mind that. But I would not want to be your counselor. I'm not a counselor. I'm not trained for that. And I don't want to be, because that's a lot of work. And you need good, strong boundaries, and you need someone who's going to let you go at your own pace for your own healing. And it's a possibility that some of us will be in counseling for the rest of our lives, just based on the continuousness of it. And there is a possibility that you may not need therapy at all. So just kick butt. I would, as a matter of fact, just keep on doing what you're doing, but avoid the politicalness of it. But like I said, I would try to welcome the opportunity for a talk. It's about time. I mean, it's 2022. It's 6,000 years later, plus some, and this needs to be addressed. Yeah, people, I enjoy what I enjoy, but you can't keep cutting people off and saying forbidden, forbidden, forbidden. Otherwise, it becomes a forbidden fruit, and now everybody who's partaken of the fruit has to be like thrown out. The only difference is in 2 Peter, angels are said to be stronger than man. They had the war in heaven. They threw Satan out himself. But when it comes to discipline, it said that, and getting in revenge, that the angels, though stronger and could inflict more harm, are gentler and more merciful because they're closer to the throne of God. Man goes overboard and berserk when they're trying to punish you. So that's part of, like, when I heard Dave Chappelle's story about the Ukrainians and coming up against the Russian forces, some of the booby traps they were setting. We are evil as crap. Especially when somebody's trying to take something from us. So I understand that part of it. I really do. But try hard to try hard to not escalate, because I'm sure it just doesn't do anybody any favors. Try to de-escalate if you can. But please don't entertain these people, because they, for some reason, they'll take advantage of all the energy that they can take from you. But at least you'll live. Maybe. But anyway, do the best you can. Yeah. So, I mean, at least in this country, I'm not suffering too much on the inflation side. And I just want to invite everyone. Oh, you know what? That's the other thing when it comes. If you do have a little small sack of money or change around, um, don't forget to donate to my channel. And also click the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel. And also, you know, take a chance and realize that no one here is anti-Semitic. No one, I'm not going to be anti myself if we do come from the tribe of Judah. That's, yeah, you don't want to accomplish that. That's not an accomplishment. But I would say, you will have to at least recognize that that you want to appreciate the life that you have. I live in a van and I appreciate my life. And I would not want to I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to actually go back to brick and mortar, if that makes sense. Anyway, take care. But I will if I had the choice. Not completely crazy. But yeah. Who knows? Maybe we'll upchuck to the boogity bee and have a house maybe a little bit later. So I won't put the cart before the horse, but you know, let's wait. Let's wait a little bit, and that's all you can do. Take care. I love you guys, you know, and just sometimes things happen. Yeah. All right, bye.